you talking about? Henry T. Moray, Nikola Tesla? These guys were able to run entire office blocks on a box that wasn't even plugged in.
Well, look at the human body. Even the human body itself, we have enough electrical current going through us that we can harness
Isn't it amazing?
that. Yeah.
You've had Walter Russell. You're going blue in the face. You've got, you've had the finest geniuses, but nobody's interested in them. That's all woo-woo stuff. Forget about that. No, we got to dig up the earth and corrupt the earth and find other ways, and we got to monopolize. Because believe me, also, I can tell you one thing: there is more oil that the American government has got hidden for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. There's no such thing as an energy shortage whatsoever, even in oil. Anyone who's done 5 minutes of real homework knows that. I've known people who worked in the top oil companies who've been taken into secret rooms and shown all the hidden silos and all the hidden oil that's kept in reserve while they show shortages in the world so that the whole world can go into panic.
Well, they want you to believe that.
That's right. It's all mind control. So even if people are into the oil thing, do some homework and find out about the black operations and the fact that they've got so much oil, so much. If they weren't polluting everywhere, you'd have even more. So, the situation is completely manufactured fear, manufactured lack, manufactured want. There's not a single country in the world that should be starving, but the World Bank sure makes sure that they starve. So, we've got injustices on our doorstep, and it's completely obvious to anyone who's done 5 minutes of homework that the whole thing is organized. And we've had people, not just people like myself, who are not scientists. We've had the scientists from the top of the totem pole telling you this, proving it.
Yeah.
Dr. Dale Scott from Berkeley, and so many other great scientists who've gone to the heart of these matters. Yeah. From Canada to Malaysia.
Dr. David Suzuki up here.
Who absolutely confirmed this. Yeah. Noam Chomsky, you name it. The list is endless of the people at the highest level of the academic totem pole, and yet still people don't get it.
And it's out there in the open for all to see.
Absolutely, out there in the open. So this is the situation in which the human needs to open their minds and really feel good about it, enjoy it.
Yeah.
The discovery of different aspects of the self, the discovery of greater phenomena, materially, the adventure of discovering new political ways in which to exist. People can go to my blog. They can go to the future, Mankind's Future page of the blog, and I've got a whole bunch of links there to permaculture and and ecology. Why not make it an adventure?
Exactly.
Why not make it a big adventure to find out how to live even in your own house? Off of better ways. There's been movies made like Affluenza and All Stressed Up. These are PBS, 1 hour, 2 hour documentaries showing people, different paradigms of how to live on recycled stuff. So there's a whole study in this, and it's a wonderful study to realize that you're not exploiting the earth anymore. You're not exploiting your neighbors. Talking about independence and we're the greatest country and we're all individualistic. It's all just verbiage. It doesn't mean anything.
It's all rhetoric.
Why not do something physically to get off the grid?
Yeah.
Stop funding these monopolies that are destroying your country.
Exactly. I tell you, I hate living in a city right now. I'm used to living in BC and halfway up a mountain, and it's scary to be in a city nowadays. It's just, when the shit hits the fan, I know a cave where I'm heading to in BC, and I tell you, I miss those. I miss those.
Cities are geopathic places to begin with.
Yeah.
They're also concrete vampires. The whole idea of creating things in a block. We can get into the whole geometry of it. Cities are not healthy places to be in any sense of the word.
No, I tell you, I had a teepee for a number of years, and I lived in a teepee for almost a year. And after being in that, I found it so difficult to walk into square buildings. It just assailed my senses. It was so bizarre. I couldn't go into stores. I had to kind of acclimatize my body again to walk into buildings.
Yeah.
It was bizarre.
And yet there's a whole culture of domes out there. People can get into domes, the geodesic domes, and live in those. And they're not expensive. They're far cheaper than even anything to run a normal house. Because there's nothing economical about living in 90-degree angles and boxes and squares and cubes, which is ad infinitum. So people need to start, the discovery of self is also an involvement into subjects like Feng Shui, into subjects like astrology and geomancy. There's a whole world of learning out there that your teachers did not teach you, that you need to re-educate yourselves. People need to educate themselves into all of these different things and make it a joy, make it a discovery, not something horrible and pessimistic and fear-based.
Yeah.
The fear is basically an epiphenomena of the city. Your fear is your epiphenomena of living amongst other people who are living in their lower chakras and are lost in fear. So, stop blaming yourself. People need to stop blaming themselves and that's, when I say you, I don't mean you personally, George. I'm saying you, the people of the world, need to get out of blame and realize there are reasons for your predicament.
Yeah.
You know, you have imbibed the collective. You have projected your own goodness onto others who do not deserve it. It's like, take a relationship setting. You know, one of the greatest psychologists is the late R.D. Laing from Scotland. And Laing said something fantastic. You know, he really analyzed relationships a lot. He said, look, you enter into a relationship and you have given love and you have given trust. Because love and trust go together, and you can say which one's even more important. You know, it's up to you, because both are extremely important, love and trust. He said, yeah, you've entered into the relationship and you're giving your wife love and trust, but you do a third thing, which you should not do. And these psychologists know that you shouldn't do it because they're picking up the pieces of the people who have done it down the line. He said, you've also done a third thing, and that is that you have expected or conditioned yourself to believe that you're receiving love and trust also. It goes with it. They all come together. If you give your love and trust, you automatically assume, and there's really no reason to do it, but you do, you assume that you're receiving those things in kind without testing for it. And he goes, that is the place of disaster. Because if the vampire is operating in your life, then they are going to make hay out of the fact that you believe you're receiving what you're not receiving. But the problem is not the vampire, the problem is your own assumption. So earlier when you said, how do you protect yourself against a vampire, is know your own motives, know your own assumption. It's actually you who's allowing them into your power.
Yeah, don't assume.
Yeah. He says, in that assumption, you've left yourself wide open to this person who normally probably couldn't attack you. And then what you do, you give so much allowance to those individuals. They breach your sovereignty continually, but because you're in auto-hypnosis, you're constantly forgiving them, you're constantly violating your own intuition, you're constantly letting them get away with murder. When in fact, by the third time they violated you, you should have already been sharp and go, wait a minute, there's something fundamentally wrong here. But you see, we constantly then excuse and excuse and excuse, because we are in a state of violating our own inner garden, our own inner temple. And then you can't. Why do you then blame the person for bringing their muddy boot prints into your mansion? It's your fault. Yeah. Everything precious has a guard around it. You don't go into museums and just see Ming vases, just set down there in front of everybody. Right? They got guards, they got ropes. Everything is cordoned off so that you can't just go and stick your fingers on it. Well, the person is the most sacred thing that's walking the planet, but he acts in the most unsacred of ways.
Yeah, destroying the temple.
And the cities in which people live, is exactly an extension of that Merkaba. It's an extension of the human of this ego-based regularity, because everyone's so damn insecure inside their own consciousness that they require even the houses in which they live and the streets in which they go and the blocks and everything to be regular. What does that tell you about the psychopathology of people? That they can't even live in an organic, natural way like the tribal ways that they have before, you see. It's horrendous. Well, and then from the water and the food and the media, this is highly inauthentic ways of living.
Yeah. It's like such a dual-edged sword, because it's such an interesting time to be alive, and yet at the same time, it's sometimes such a sad time to be alive.
Right. So this is testing our mettle. You see, the adversarial energy is probably stronger now. And remember, the adversarial energy has been strong always.
Yeah.
But it shifts. It doesn't remain the same. Before, hundreds of years ago or not too long ago, the adversarial energy was literally a physicalized thing in which it prevented you from even moving 10 miles from your village. It was very, very, very physicalized. You were a serf. And even if you wanted to marry somebody, you had to go in front of the Lord, get down on your knees, and beg that person to allow you the privilege of marrying. Mm-hmm. It was crown or it was gown. It was autocracy or it was, theology, whatever you want to call it, monarchy, and the religion. Very punitive. Okay, so that kind of changes or lightens up, but we have other forms of dictatorship, other forms of control, and the controllers have always